Hi, I'm Christa Jacobson, headmistress of the Budo Ryu Kai, where we teach authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai Bujutsu. And for those of you who don't know what that is, those are the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai. In today's video, we're going to discuss Henka and how you can properly utilize Henka correctly in your martial arts training. Today is a beautiful day, so I'm going to go out for a little walk and share some of my thoughts in the martial arts with all of you. I got my hair up in a bun, right? Been a little lazy. During this coronavirus pandemic, everyone's got these stay-at-home orders, so have been a little lazy. So you guys are probably going to see a lot of videos of my hair up, so I can just be lazy. Anyway, let's get on point. Today we're talking about Henka, right? Now, before we get to this topic of martial arts training and how to apply that to your ninjutsu and bujutsu and reality-based self-defense, I always do a shout out to all of my new viewers. So if this is the first video that you've seen of me, again, I'm Christa Jacobson. I'm the headmistress of the Budo Ryu Kai, which means School of the Warrior Way. I teach the ancient martial arts of the ninja and samurai, so ninjutsu and bujutsu. We also have a strong focus in reality-based self-defense. Weapons training and tactics, survival skills, martial arts conditioning, martial arts theory, thought, and philosophy. If any of those topics right there interest you at all, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and don't forget to click the little bell, right? Because when you click the bell, you get notifications and you can keep up with everything that we're doing. I do post 2 to 3 videos a week. I am very active on YouTube. So if you are interested in those topics, like I said, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell, right? Okay, so Henka. The easiest way to translate Henka means variation. Now today we're going to be talking about this specifically in the realm of variation to Kata, okay? For those of you guys who don't know what that is, Kata means like form. It's kind of a preset technique against a preset attack, okay? Now, I got a message from a very hateful individual because he kind of quoted one of my videos and he totally took it out of context. And anyway, kind of the meat and potatoes of what he was trying to say is he's saying that I was saying that we're the only ones that do Henka. It's not what I was saying. What I was saying is in our organization, in the Budo Ryu Kai, we have a very specific, systematic way of looking at Henka. And the reason for that is I believe that you need to break the philosophy and principles down to better understand them. I also believe that the Henka has to be able to be applicable in the modern day, which that does separate us from a lot of the other major Ninpo organizations. So this individual stated that he is from one of these more larger, more popular Ninpo organizations, and he talked about his Henka. That's all well and good, but the way that this particular organization, or the way that the majority of Ninpo organizations do Henka, is they do a variation from an old kata. So let's say you've got kata 1, and then they do a Henka of kata 1. Okay. The way that they do Henka is still set in the 15th century. The way that they do Henka, their Henka does not look like a real fight, like at all. And there's no way you could take that exact movement and make it applicable in a real fight. Anybody who's been in a real fight or watched a real fight would understand what I'm talking about. I'm sure that this individual made this hateful ass message thinking that he has some sort of like authority, but the reality of it is he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. So what I thought I would do is take this opportunity to kind of help my viewers better understand where we're coming from when we're teaching the ancient kata of the ninja and samurai, okay? So when I say how to apply Henka in your martial arts training, I'm going to be talking about how we apply it and how we utilize Henka here at the Budo Ryu Kai. So I want to kind of paint an image for you guys, okay? When we look at kata, each specific kata in all 7 warrior traditions, okay, whether it's Kokuryu Kenpo, Tenjin Ryu Jujutsu, Tomorushi no Bijutsu, Eishin Ryu Iai-Jutsu, Koto Ryu Koppo Jutsu, Gyoko Ryu Koshi Jutsu, and Togakure Ryu Ninpo Taijutsu. It doesn't matter which one of those 7 ryuha that we're studying from. For every classical kata, there are 3 phases to that particular kata when we look at the understanding and practice of the particular kata. So phase 1 in learning the kata is learning the kata, the principles, the strategies, understanding the movement, the kamae, the motion, the taijutsu, everything that comes with that kata in its traditional form is phase 1. That includes the kuden, the verbal transmission, application of the ancient kata, the whole bit. That is phase one. Now, most schools stop at that point. They just teach the kata and then how to use it and they move on. We don't do that. That's not how we do it here at the Budo Ryu Kai. We have 3 phases to it. So once the student understands phase 1, then they move into the phase 2 of that same kata. And that's where we get into what we call Gendai Henka Waza, or modern variation technique. It's a Henka, or a variation of the ancient kata. So at this point, it's still going to be kata, it's still going to be form, right? Which means, again, it's going to be kind of like a fixed motion against a fixed attack. So a lot of the, Henka, Gendai Henka Waza that we teach off of the old kata are still in the same kind of against this attack, this is the correct response. But we change it based on modern day applicability. So instead of these big lunge punches where you step in with this big Fudoken or Oizuki, right? Right punch, right foot lead type of thing. We change the attack to fit what it is that the people are going to see today in the realm of self-defense. So it might be a jab, it might be a cross, it might be a lead hook, or an uppercut or something like this. So we change the attack so the students can understand the principles and strategies of the ancient method, these ancient teachings that's been passed down for hundreds of years, and how they can apply that against a modern attack. We also change the different type of kamae, the way that we angle our feet, the way that we move. We make it a modern variation of the ancient kata. Now, not all of the Gendai Henka Waza, okay, or all of the Henka Waza that you learn as you go through the levels are testable material. To be quite honest with you, the majority of Henka that you learn is not really testable. It's not going to be on your testing exam, but it is one of those skill sets you have to know and be able to do, or you're just not ready for testing. So, an example, like if you guys are in the Budo Ryu Kai level 2, we study with the Sanshin no Kata. So once you're in the Sanshin, you would know you have Chisui Kafuku, some people call it the Gogyo no Kata. So you learn the classical form, and then there's going to be the modern variation of each of those 5 techniques. You have the Koshi Sanpo, which is like Ichimanji no Kata, Hicho no Kata, and Jumanji no Kata. So you have the classical form, and then you have a modern variation. So there are some of these particular modern variations or Henka Waza that are testable. In that sense, the Henka Waza that you see underneath Shodan, that's in the Sanshin or the Koshi Sanpo or Torte Goho or Kion Happo, whichever terminology you guys would like to use, and amongst other aspects of kata training or techniques that you learn, some of them, yes, are testable, some of them are not. But nonetheless, that's where we're coming from. We want to be able to take the ancient ways and apply it into a modern variation. Most schools don't do that. Most schools, like I said, they only teach the kata. Some schools do teach variation, but the majority of Ninpo organizations, their variation and their Henka looks like they're still in the 15th century. Like, you can't tell whether they're doing the classical kata or whether they're doing a Henka, because it looks the exact same. And that's where I take a huge stance, because I don't believe that to be the true way of the warrior way. I mean, hell, the name of our school, Budo Ryu Kai, means School of the Warrior Way. And I don't believe that is the correct way to teach the ancient arts of the ninja and samurai, which is one of the reasons why back in 2004, I developed the Budo Ryu Kai. Now, once you get back, let's get back on track here. So once you get past these 2 phases, again, which is phase 1 of learning the kata is learning the kata and how to utilize it and do it. Phase 2 is the modern variation of that kata, still a variation of kata, so still form, right? Phase 3 of understanding a particular kata here within our school, you have to understand what we call goshinjutsu. Now on YouTube, I use the words reality-based self-defense. I even say it in the beginning of all my videos. The reason I say that is because generally when the videos that I post on YouTube, I'm talking to an audience that may or may not know a lot about classical Japanese martial arts. So if I say the 3rd phase of training a kata is goshinjutsu, no one would understand what that is. So if I just say reality-based self-defense, then you would know that. I would like to say that I would say the 3rd step is self-defense, self-defense technique. The problem with doing that is there's so many martial arts schools that claim to teach self-defense, and in all reality, their self-defense techniques are shit. They're not self-defense techniques, they're shit. They would never defend you, and they'd probably get you killed. So I have to take a step away from using the word self-defense, because there's so many people that claim to teach self-defense, and what they're throwing out there isn't self-defense, it's shit. So I have to say we're teaching reality-based self-defense. That helps the viewer better understand where we're coming from and how we understand the applicability of the self-defense techniques. Now, this aspect of training the kata, or understanding our 3 phases of each kata that we derive from the 7 warrior traditions, this is the most important and crucial part, because the goshinjutsu, again, or reality-based self-defense that we teach, they all should be done in less than like 2 seconds, 1 second. They are very quick, rapid fire technique that you can use now. It is the most simplistic method of fighting to protect yourself. Very quick stuff, you know. It's the eye gouging, the eye strikes, the throats, the kicking them in the groin, the really quick stuff that can happen right now in a violent, intense, close quarter combative situation. Because anybody who watches kata or waza or henka, they have to understand that the majority of these techniques don't fit in a real fight. And like I said, anyone who's ever been in a real fight knows this, but there's so many people that study martial arts that they're never really in a real fight. And even if you got your ass whooped on the street, you weren't in the fight. You just got your ass whooped. So anybody who says, you know, I was in a fight, if there wasn't a big exchange, you wasn't really in the fight. You just got your ass whooped. So the reality is, when we're training, I feel that it's very important for my students to understand this idea and these 3 phases. Now let me paint an artistic expression to you guys so you can understand where I'm coming from, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about philosophy and how I approach these 3 phases so that you guys can better understand how to apply these 3 phases to your ninjutsu training. I want you to think of kata like a seed. You plant a seed. The seed is the seed. You're holding life in your hand, right? That the seed is the seed. It is what it is. It's the basic form for growth. You take the seed, you put the seed in the ground, you nurture it, you feed it, you water it, and it starts to grow. Same thing with kata. You understand the kata, you plant the kata, you nurture and train, and you feed the kata, or you do the training of the kata. Your skill set within that particular kata tends to grow. Now, once that kata starts to grow and it goes up, you start seeing branches. And all those branches off of that base of the tree is a henka, or a variation off of the base. So the seed starts to grow up and you get this strong foundation, and then here comes the branches. All of those branches and branches off of the branches and branches off of the branches, those are all representative of the henka that you could get from that one kata. That one seed grows all these different branches, and off all those different branches are all those different leaves, right? And all of that is representative of the henka. There is an innumerable amount of henka that you can get from one specific kata. It's unlimited. So, although yes, going back to the testable material for those of you guys who are interested in the Budo Ryu Kai, some of our henka are testable, and we have some of them that are, you know, they've been on the Densho pages since the beginning, and there are specific henka that are required for testing. However, there's a lot of henka that are not required for testing, and the reason a lot of the henka isn't required for testing is because those henka are going to change as the individual changes, as time changes, as their skill set and level of skill change, and as their skills tend to grow, their skill set tends to grow, that their ability becomes higher, they're going to be able to do more things and be more efficient. So yes, we do test the henka, but we don't test all of the henka. But you have to be good at the henka to test. Hopefully I made that clear. But as you look at the seed that grows, kata, and then it grows the branches and the twigs and the leaves, henka, then the tree grows fruit, usable fruit, that you can use for nourishment right now. You pick the apple. The fruit is the goshinjutsu. The fruit of that tree is the reality-based self-defense. It's that quick, rapid-fire stuff, eye strike, you know, fish hooking or eye gouging or whatever it is that you can do right now in an intense, violent situation that can protect you against violence. So when you look at this concept, okay, when you look at this concept, you see the seed, the kata grows, the branches and leaves, you got Henka, and then the fruit. What happens to the fruit if you don't pick the fruit? Well, the fruit falls off the tree and then it dies. The trunk of that tree, once it's there, it's always there. The trunk don't move, it's there. So the kata is always there. The branches, unless you cut them off, they're there. And if you cut one off, another one will grow. So that happens as well. That's why I say sometimes the Henka changes with time. But the fruit, if you don't pick the fruit will fall off, and then inevitably there'll be more fruit the next year. So when people say, well, what is you talk about training in this classical ninja kata and the classical samurai kata. Well, what do you teach for reality-based self-defense? Well, it changes all the time, and we have to utilize a different skill set depending on the attack, the environment, the amount of people that are around, whether it's multiple attackers, whether it's a single attacker, whether they have, you know, weaponry, whether it's a bludgeoning attack, an edged weapon attack, firearms. You know, there's so many different variations, and that's why the variation has to happen within the kata, because there's so many variables within every attack. And then off every one of those attacks, you have to break down to the most simplistic understanding of how you can utilize something now, because the more complicated you make things when you're dealing with something that happens so fast, so quick, so violent, so intense, the less chance you have of actually pulling it off. So we want to make sure that the reality-based self-defense of the goshinjutsu, the fruit at the end of that branch that we use, can be used. You don't want to pick bad fruit. Just the same, you don't want to pick fruit that's on the ground that's already like decaying and is old. You know what I mean? I mean, reality-based self-defense 100 years ago is different than reality-based self-defense now. That is the reality of it. So we want to make sure that those constantly change and update with the time. So although if someone was to come back to the Budo Ryu Kai that might have been a member 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, I'm sure the Densho pages are the exact same. But that doesn't mean the way that we train or the way that we do things or some of the Henka or the self-defense or goshinjutsu techniques are the same. Those things would be different, although the pages don't change. The understanding and knowledge of the transmission of the old arts, which we call koden. So ko meaning old and den is transmission, so the koden. So the old transmission, that doesn't change. But the training is keiko. So keiko is the training. That kanji of keiko is actually truly deep, and there's a really esoteric understanding of the kanji for keiko. And I can get it in another video if you guys are interested. But the keiko generally is understood as training. And the training of the koden, right, or the keiko of the koden is what's truly important. Now, when I talk to you guys about philosophy of why I broke off and I'm like, everyone's just fucking wrong, and this is just not correct. There's no way the ancient ninja would do that. There's no way the ancient samurai would do that. For me to, and I want to explain this because then you guys can truly paint the picture of where I'm coming from in this particular video. The way I look at the old arts, and it doesn't matter whether someone's studying, you know, kenjutsu or iaijutsu or jujutsu or taijutsu or kempo or whatever, ninjutsu, bujutsu, kobujutsu, it doesn't really matter. When you're studying the old arts, there's a point in time in Japan where everything went through this big change, and that's why we call it koryu, because all the martial arts that are koryu or koryu bujutsu happened before 1868, so in the time of the ninja, the time of samurai, so they predate 1868. Anything after 1868, we generally call that Gendai Budo. So we don't call it Koryu Bujutsu. Koryu Bujutsu has happened before 1868, and then Gendai Budo happened after 1868. So Gendai Budo would be like Karate Do, Aikido, Kendo, Judo, Iaido, the Do arts. And the idea of Do, or the way of enlightenment, I guess is one way of the understanding of it, became very prevalent in a time where now there's no more samurai, there's no more ninja. Japan was unified. It was a much different time period. So this is why I say that you can't study a do art, karate do, and then read a ninja manual, whether it's even one of the big dinsho of like the Bansenshu Kai or the Ninpoden and the Shoninki, and truly get its essence, because what you're doing doesn't reflect what it is that you're reading, because it's a different time period that was made at a different reason. So like if you're studying like Shotokan Karate, right, or Goju Ryu Karate, or Wada Ryu Karate, and then you're also doing Ninpoden study, or Bansenshu Kai, or Shoninki, or Gorin no Sho, Book of Five Rings, or whatever it is that you're studying from, of the ancient text, okay, of samurai and ninja. If the art that you're doing wasn't made in that time period, you can't do something and go backwards. It doesn't fit. The essence of what you used it for, or what it was created for, doesn't fit. And when you're studying an art like this, and this isn't a knock on like people who study karate and judo and aikido, that's absolutely not a knock by any means. Those are beautiful arts. They're all applicable arts. I've seen people who study all those different arts and they're very good martial artists. This is absolutely not me taking a shot at karate or aikido or judo in any way, not at all. But those arts were not practiced by the ninja or samurai. That's it. And those arts were meant as a way of training for a different purpose than war. That's just all there is to it. You understand, like karate do. You're not going to sit out there with your bare hands and a karate gi and run up on a samurai who's fully fucking armed, and they have a 30-inch razor blade and they're coming at you. Well, what are you going to do? And you have this person wearing full body armor with a 30-inch razor blade getting ready to hack your head off. You're going to do like a reverse punch, and break through their armor. I've heard about that shit, and that's bullshit. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the martial arts that were developed during the age of like the karate do and aikido and judo and so forth, that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad martial arts. Every martial art was developed for a specific reason in a specific time, right? So they're all beautiful in their own way, and they all can be applicable. But you can't say that I'm going to use karate as a way to better my ninjutsu training. So the way that I understand the training and the way that I teach my students is that it has to work. The samurai, the ninja, everything that they did was meant for war. It was meant for them to be able to do something and not die. So they had to be able to protect themselves. It was meant for them to be able to protect their loved ones. It was meant for them to be able to protect their land. It was meant for them to be able to protect and serve their Lord. It was meant for them to go to war. If what you are doing does not reflect that purpose, then you are not doing ninjutsu. You are not doing Bujutsu. I don't give a shit what book you're reading. There are lots of people all over here that own the Bible and call themselves a Christian, but they don't act like it. And their study and practice of their Christianity does not reflect that they are a Christian. So just because you buy a good book and you put it on the shelf and you don't practice and study and train, then it doesn't matter what book you have. The book is irrelevant. So when I teach the arts, I make sure that my students can understand the true warrior way. Again, the name of the school, Budo Ryu Kai, means School of the Warrior Way. And I want my students to understand the root of what it is, the seed. That is the classical kata. I'm huge on history and tradition. That's why we have to know the kata. That's why every kata is going to be on you. If you learn a kata in any of the 7 traditions, it is on a test. I promise you'll have to test it. However, if any of those ancient warriors, Hattori Hanzo or Ishikawa Goemon or Sendeyu Momochi or, Miyamoto Musashi, Yagyu Jubei, right? These great warriors, or what we see today as great warriors, if they was to come back from the grave, I promise none of them will be twirling a stick. None of them will be trying to go to war with a rokushaku bow. None of them would be having, a full katana on their hip and running out there in the middle of some modern day war. Like, that's not what they would be doing. All of them would be updating to what it is that they need to do to survive in the time that they're in. That is an absolute truth. So when I see these other larger Ninpo organizations and they do Henka, of course they do Henka, but their Henka is still in the 15th century. To me, that's cheating the art. It's cheating the lineage. It's cheating the tradition, because the tradition was about survival. So here in the Budo Ryu Kai, I want to make sure that, okay, yeah, you train the kata. Okay, so you know kata. How do you apply that now? Yeah, it's like iaijutsu. Like all of you guys have seen us practice, Eshinryu iaijutsu, one of our traditions. All of my students, they don't just practice drawing the sword. Those are the same skill sets we use with conceal carry and all of our knife tactics. Every one of those ancient kata that you see in Eshinryu iaijutsu, where they're studying classical Japanese swordsmanship, every one of those kata, I tell my students, go get your knives, put them in your pocket, and now we're going to be studying, conceal carry techniques off of these ancient kata, because the kata were developed by people that went to war. It's not my opinion, and that's another reason why I want to do variations off the classical form, because it isn't like, I've went to war and I've used these techniques and these are, I don't need to make up any technique. I already have 7 traditions where all of them were battle tested. So we just need to take the principles and concepts of these ancient arts and make sure that we've instilled those teachings in our students at the Budo Ryu Kai like a seed and help them grow and nurture those kata, but then give them the skill set in the variations of those kata so they can actually utilize and understand those principles. And that's what's going to help them live today. But then from that, you even get even further. Then you get your reality-based self-defense, or goshinjutsu, which is the fruit at the end of that branch. I believe that the way is in training, and Miyamoto Musashi said that too. He says the way is in training, and you have to train to understand how to apply. I have had people who join the Budo Ryu Kai, they want to run schools and all this kind of stuff, and then they all leave. And they leave for the same damn reason. Because it's too fucking hard. I'm making them punch each other and kick each other and more push-ups, more sit-ups. None of them do the physical workout. Every time I watch any of these groups that came and gone, all of them are not up to the physical conditioning that we do at the Hanbu. The ones that have come and gone, not the ones that have come and stayed, the ones that come and go. Because that's not what they're interested in. Well, and I know this is going to sound like I'm taking shots. I'm trying to take shots, but you got like this. You have different groups within the ninjutsu community, and this over here, you got this group where they just believe reading the book is good enough to have the book. Well, it's kind of like those Bible thumpers. They got the Bible, but they don't practice shit. They can't do shit, and they're hateful. They're bigots. They're prejudiced. You know what I mean? And that book doesn't really reflect anything that they can do or understand. So just because you stick to a specific book and you've read the book, that doesn't mean you can apply it. And I believe that the way is in training, not the way is in reading. And that's not me taking a shot at the people who really love the research of the ancient warrior arts. I love the research. I love the books and the scrolls and the densho. But a supplement is a supplement. A supplement is not a substitute. And we can get in that in a different video as well. But the positive with that group, that at least they're reading the ancient texts and at least they understand the reality of what ninja and samurai did. What's worse is you've got certain particular groups in the ninjutsu community. They teach ninjutsu, Henka, Kata. They don't spar, they don't grapple, they don't fight. Because at least the group that they're reading a book, they'll just tell you, look, I read a book. You know what I mean? That's what I do. Most of them will tell you that, I research it. But then you got those that say, I study it, I'm a ninja master, or I study Bujutsu, and da-da-da. They're fat, they're overweight, out of shape, or they're really skinny and scrawny, and they have no strength. They can't fight, they can't spar, they can't grapple. They have no physical skills. They got a lot of rank, but they have no skills. And to me, the reason all these different groups, I disagree with fucking all of them, is because I believe that if you can't physically do what you claim to do, you should apologize to the art that you claim to know. Because all of these martial arts came from warriors, and all of these warriors prepared themselves to fight, to combat, to defend themselves, to protect what they love. When I go to these different schools and they can't do the physical conditioning, they can't do the sparring, they can't do the grappling, well then fuck them then. They need to go do something easier, and they do. And they get higher rank, and I'm sure they make more money because people buy easy shit. More people buy weight loss pills, right, than go to a gym. More people buy exercise equipment than lose weight. Why? Because the majority of people are fucking lazy. The majority of martial art teachers are bullshit. They're lying. They're in for the money. To them, it's nothing but a business. They like martial arts and they want to make money off the martial arts, but they don't want to do what it takes to be good at the martial arts. So the majority of martial art teachers are bullshit too, which again is why I pulled away. I do my own thing. We do the Budo Ryu Kai. If you guys are interested in authentic ninjutsu, classical samurai bujutsu, and you want to train, that's what we do. If you want to read books, that's all you want to do, then this is not the organization for you. Do you know what I'm saying? You want to do kata, but you don't want to condition yourselves to take a punch or give a punch, this ain't the organization for you. I promise you're going to get fucking punched. You're going to get punched, you're going to get kicked, you're going to get thrown to the fucking ground. The conditioning is very difficult here. I promise that. And if you can't take it, then you just can't take it. Not everybody, being a black belt isn't a right. Not everyone has the right to that. It's a privilege, and it's something that you should earn. We've talked about it many times, the jack of all trades, master of none, right? The first on masters. It's fucking pathetic. I think people like that should apologize to the martial arts because they've got no honor, they have no respect, they have no integrity, they have no loyalty. All they give a shit about is themselves. And I feel sorry for their students. There's nobody with any type of common sense can tell you that, well, if I can't do this because it's too hard, I'm going to do that. And that right there, that's going to help me survive a violent attack. Why do the majority of people who go into the military, they're not special forces? Because the special force training is harder. That's just the reality of it. But for me, I believe the way is in training. All I care about is the applicable skills. My students being able to withstand a reality-based self-defense situation. Someone comes at them and they have the skill set to be able to withstand that. And you don't know how to take a punch until you start taking punches on a regular basis. You don't know how to combat unless you put yourself in combative situations on a regular basis. The reason the physical conditioning is so difficult is because, if you can't make yourself do push-ups, sit-ups, and squats, if you can't push your own fat ass off the ground, how do you push someone bigger than you off of you? That doesn't even make sense. Apparently, the laws of physics don't work, in your world, right? If your footwork is terrible, if you're overweight or whatever, you have no muscle, no footwork, no timing, no skill set, you can't do 15 squats because it makes your legs burn. But you're going to get in there and just, move around and have this agility. Bullshit. You can't do sit-ups. So you can't even get your own ass off the floor. But boy, you're going to put someone on their ass, right? It's a ridiculous notion for anyone to believe that they don't have to train to be good in a combative situation. Look at professional athletes. Look at professional combative athletes. And I know that reality-based self-defense in a real fight is not reflective of, say, MMA, kickboxing, and karate tournaments. I agree with that 100%. However, the sparring and the grappling and all that kind of stuff, what it is reflective of is being able to control your mind in that situation. And that's why that has to be there. But you can't test the skill without putting yourself in the situation. You know what I mean? So although there are different variations to martial training, and there are different avenues within martial training and different ways to get to the top of the mountain. When you're looking at the kata are the secrets. Those are the things that were passed down for many generations by the masters. And for us to not do the traditional kata, I think is an injustice to the tradition or the ryuha that we're teaching. I think all classical kata should be taught in depth. But I also think these warriors fought for something, and they lived for something, and they stood for something. And that was the art of protection. Being able to fight and protect the ones that they love and stand up for what they believe in. And only training the kata does not provide that skill set. You have to train in something that's going to give you the skill set to be able to do that. That's where you get the variations or henka from the particular kata. But even then, when you're doing henka off of a form, and you're still doing that in a particular form, that doesn't necessarily give you the skill set in an arena that's not fixed, that doesn't, it isn't set like this is the attack and this is the proper response. So you have to go one step further, and that's where you get the fruit off the end of the branch, like I was saying. That's where you get the goshinjutsu, or the reality-based self-defense. And then once you get those skills of the kata and the movement and this, you apply them in various randori exercises, whether it's sparring or kumite or kickboxing drills or grappling drills or weapons sparring and
multiple attacker situations, and all of these freelance training exercises where you have to apply them in a situation that's very intense, very combative. Pain is very possible, and you don't know what's coming, and you have to be able to do that to truly understand it. And that's why I think it's important to understand Henka. That's why I think it's very important to understand the 3 phases of each particular kata. And that's what we teach here at the Budo Ryu Kai. So I know this was a long video, but hopefully you got something out of it. So one more time real quick. I am Christa Jacobson. I'm the head of the Budo Ryu Kai, which means School of the Warrior Way. If you guys are interested in authentic ninjutsu and classical samurai bujutsu, please check out our website at www.budoryuninjutsu.com. There you can see a list of our schools and what it is that we teach. If you are interested but you don't live next to one of our schools, you can always join the Budo Ryu Kai online ninjutsu dojo and you can start training with us today. So thank you very much for your love and support. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.